Namaste everyone. Very warm welcome to Satsang today. Guru Shri Mujiji ki Jai. So we start with chapter 7, which is called the True Knower. Ashtavakra said, one has attained knowledge and reaped the fruits of yoga, who is content, purified of attachments, and at home in solitude. One has attained knowledge and reaped the fruits of yoga, who is content, purified of attachments, and at home in solitude. So, what does it mean, one who has attained knowledge and reaped the fruits of yoga? Yoga means the recognition of this oneness, coming to this union, yoga. In fact, the English word yog, to come together, to come as one, is also derived from this yoga. So, purified of attachments and at home in solitude. So, we've looked at this aspect often now. We saw that attachments is this sense of division, the sense of separation. I am an object, and therefore I need other objects to complete me, and they must be mine. The me and the mine is the play of attachments. At home in solitude. So one who has found himself to be that which is the source of everything doesn't need the company of another, and neither is averse to the company of another. The idea of loneliness or togetherness itself is not that meaningful now, because you see that you are the container of all there is. The knower of truth is never miserable in the world, for the whole universe is filled with himself alone. So, once you know the truth of what you are, you have to struggle to be miserable. We've spoken about this every time. We only speak about this actually. What is satsang for? For you to recognize this. You, consciousness, recognizing your own source, which is this knowingness, this awareness, this truth. And to recognize actually that there is awareness alone. And even this moving aspect, this dynamic aspect, is nothing else other than the self. It's not outside of the self. So once you see that all of this is inside you, is an appearance for you, the truth remains untouched by any appearance, then you have to really struggle to be miserable. The knower of truth is never miserable in the world, for the whole universe is filled with himself alone. So, if you see that the self is all there is, awareness is all there is, then we see that this dynamic aspect, consciousness, is also made up of what? The same awareness, the same self manifesting itself as if it now is existent, it is now being. And all is made up of this very same consciousness. Therefore, nothing is outside of you. In fact, the whole universe is filled with Himself alone. As the foliage of a neem tree does not please an elephant who delights in salaki leaves, so do sense objects not please he who delights in self. So neem leaves anyway are known to be quite bitter. They have a certain nice quality about them also. But compared to these other leaves, which I've never tasted actually, salaki leaves, I don't know how they taste. So those who enjoy these salaki leaves, these elephants, they are not uh, pleased by the foliage of the neem tree. So once you have tasted yourself, which in its non-phenomenality, qualitylessness, yet is pristine, truly cannot be described, you see. Like you cannot describe love to those who have not experienced it in their heart, but we can try. So for verses like this, we truly have to see that this discovery of the self, that one which is untouched by any other taste, the unchanging, the unmoving, the ever witnessing awareness, this self, once you settle in the taste of this, then you will find that the neediness or the desire about worldly taste is not so much. And yet, it is not that the taste of the world goes away, it is experienced in its full vibrancy. And yet, it does not compare to the taste that you are having of your own self recognition. You cannot be bored by the self. All of the tastes might bore you. The best music might bore you, the best food might bore you, the best sensual experience might bore you. But the taste of the self is never boring. And it's never too much. Nobody ever says, oh, there's just too much self. For sweet and salty, we can say that. For any other phenomenal experience, we can say that. Too much or too little. But this self is never too much or too little. Rare in the world is one who does not relish past enjoyments nor yearn for enjoyments to come. I've spoken about this life being, for most of humanity, being a seeming struggle to run away from pain and to seek pleasure. Many times in spirituality also we have this similar pleasure seeking where we are concerned more about the bliss or the taste of self-realization than about self-realization itself. It is not different. So usually I give the simple answer, which is to say, if the truth is Sat Chit Ananda, if the self is Sat Chit Ananda, you focus on Sat and Chit, which is truth and the existence, truth and being. and let Ananda take care of itself. But actually, when we are looking at this now, you see that the nature of your unassociated presence is Ananda itself, is joy itself. What happens is that we end up confusing this joy and we want to convert it in some sort of a personal joy. I want to be the claimant of this joy. I want to be the owner of this joy. When the individual I still comes in, then it can seem like, oh, there is no bliss. Where is the bliss? But if you were to explore your own existence right now, you will notice that this joy is beyond any taste of phenomenal joy. It is the joy of existing. All of us are tasting it. In fact, this is one of the popular reasons why we say that consciousness plays this game, or awareness, the self plays this game of existence, of coming into existence, because it gets joy from existence. So it is never that as you remain with your presence, and you notice that this presence is ever empty of joy, empty of bliss, of peace, contentment. But when we make it personal, can we make it a aspect of our report card of freedom? How much joy am I feeling? Then it can seem elusive. So simply put, through worldly eyes, this joy can seem elusive. Sometimes you taste it, sometimes you don't. But through the eyes of your being tasting itself, this is a pristine joy. I am that I am. Being enjoying its own beingness, its own existence. So, what is the clue in this? The clue in this is that if you are the source of all joy, and all phenomenal joy is subservient to this pure joy of being, then where must you look for joy? It cannot be in outer objects, and cannot be with the eyes of a claimant, cannot be with the eyes of a person. If you remain empty of concept and taste your own existence right now, put away the measuring tape, put away the barometer, allow existence to just exist without trying to exist as something. Then you will find that even for this unassociated presence, you can say that it is the truth, it is presence, and it is joy. with no idea of what joy should be. As you start tasting your own presence in this way, the feverishness for joy from seeming outward objects will start to dissolve. The feverishness will start to dissolve. It's not that all desire must go away, but the potential of desire to cause suffering goes away. Those who desire pleasure and those who desire liberation are both common in the world. Those who desire pleasure and those who desire liberation are both common in the world. Rare is the great soul who desires neither enjoyment nor liberation. Now you have to have the right ears to hear this. What the sage is saying is that whether you desire objects or you are looking for freedom, you see, you're still the cat. The cat chasing his next bowl of milk, and he tried to find the bowl of milk in these objects, tried to find joy in these objects, and now is chasing freedom as if it will get something as a cat. So, are both common in the world. You're still being worldly if you're chasing this or that. Now, rare is a great soul who desires neither enjoyment and not even freedom. If you're empty of desire, including the desire that what is should be something else, you cannot suffer. Suffering is a resistance to what is, and a primal desire is that what is should be something else, according to my mind's idea of what is should be. If you have no notion about anything at all, those are rare. If you're not chasing anything at all, you forget about the concept of the next bowl of milk, very quickly you will see that you're not a cat. But if I keep saying you're not a cat, you're not a cat, and you are still thinking, I want my milk, I want my milk, you see, then it can seem like the journey seems longer. So very often I say, even like this, that you are free. And the response I get is, Father, when will I be free? Or when will I see it? But you are that. You see it right now. What you see about yourself is the truth of what you are. Not what you imagine about yourself, not what you interpret or judge about yourself. What do you truly find when you look? That is the truth. And yet, because we might have a preconceived notion of what freedom should be, and the preconceptions can come from anything, from the books, from anything that we've heard about self realization, then quickly we turn everything that is heard, even in satsang, and we start to look at it through our cat lens, yes, through our individualized lenses. Then we start to look at finding freedom in that way. So, this effortlessness which I have been talking about, effortless allowing, nothing to chase, nowhere to go, nothing to find except that recognition of already what is. To get away from the denial of the truth by, by forcing belief in the false. to see what is for what is. All the examples of the sage, to see that there is no snake in the rope. It has just been an idea, to see that all these ornaments are gold and there is no difference in substance. All it needs is a simple insight into what is, empty of any preconceived ideas or notions. Who is here that has a lack, that can desire something? Can that one be found? So I say that the one who wants better relationships, the one who wants or wants more money in the bank, or wants something, some uh, special powers for his body, or some special kind of health for his body, is the same one who wants freedom. Which one? The non-existent one. The non-existent one. Is that one here? Those who desire pleasure and those who desire liberation are both common in the world. Rare is the great soul. What happened, sweetheart? It's a bad day in school. What do you don't study? These things happen in school.
Because I was half asleep.
Come and sit down. Lie down the part. Are you alright? Childhood experiences. No, it's okay. She'll come. She'll just freshen up. Hair is all over the place. Got dreadlocks. It's good now. That's all I can do with my hands. Yeah, hold them down when you take the photo. Those who desire pleasure and those who desire liberation are both common in the world. Rare is the great soul who desires neither enjoyment nor liberation. Rare is the right-minded person who neither covets nor shuns religion, wealth, pleasure, life or death. Rare is the right-minded person who neither covets nor shuns religion, wealth, pleasure, life or death. So what is this right mind? You see, the mind only knows opposites. If I say the right mind is the neutral mind, can the mind come into neutral? Even neutral is a position. You see. So actually what the sage is saying, right mind is the topping of this mind, the emptying of any concept. You see? Because to the mind, it only understands specific reference points. You see? So I say, like Guruji jokes sometimes, he says, just be natural. Okay? And then if you try to be natural, then that also becomes a position, which is the opposite of naturalness. You see? So this naturalness is a simple openness, a simple allowing. So it's not truly right-minded in that way. It is not about taking even a right-minded position, but it's more. So there are some who are coveting, desire. Those who are shunning, aversion. Neither of these. Just what is this is. Rare is this one, who neither covets nor shuns religion, wealth, pleasure, life, or death. The man of knowledge. Okay, and remember that this knowledge is that capital K knowledge which we've spoken of from the beginning, not like mental knowledge. The man of knowledge neither cares for the universe nor desires its dissolution. He lives happily on whatever comes his way. He is blessed. So we've spoken enough about this. Knowing self, mind empty and at peace, the sage lives happily, seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating. Such a such a very simple sounding words, but captures almost all of satsang. Okay, knowing self, capital K, knowing self. This recognition is what we are talking about in every satsang. Knowing self, mind empty and at peace. This emptiness that we are talking about, this openness, allowing all thoughts to come and go, not believing your next thought, basically. Is it? Knowing self, mind empty and at peace. Just this much, satsang. What is satsang? Knowing, coming to the knowing of the self, and the mind is empty. The sage lives happily, so happiness arises naturally, and all the functioning of seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating still goes on naturally. So the second part is like saying, before enlightenment, chopping wood, fetching water. After enlightenment, chopping wood, fetching water. Are there any thoughts that are not what's in it for me thoughts? I said, no, ego's Mahamantra is what's in it for me. So I've been looking but can't find. Prarthana says, I've been looking but can't find. There are some which come very innocently, trying to just uh, give you a taste or a translation of something purely phenomenal. Like I take the example, no? The flower is white. The thought can come, the flower is white. But if you give it a minute or two, soon a judgment which comes with the me will come. I like this. See? The me will come. The white flowers, these are very nice. See? Coconut is green. Innocent thought, just a bad photocopy of the phenomenal experience. You see? Therefore, just harmless in that way. So the coconut is green. But again, coconuts are nice. They're very good. No? I should have coconut every day. It starts like that. And you'll notice that the experience of the green coconut or the white flower does not rely on the concept green coconut or white flower. So to experience this phenomenal realm, we don't need the conceptual crutches of thought. The experience of it is already happening. The taste of life continues to be tasted. Like the sage said, seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating. But he didn't say thinking. You see? So in existence, all of this natural functioning, as long as existence is arising, all this naturally can happen. The functioning of all the senses, eating, other bodily functions, they can just continue. We do not need thinking to exist. We do not need thinking to even experience the taste of this phenomenal creation. So sometimes thought come and pose and say, Ananta is wrong. Because I'm just saying the coconut is green. You see? Why he says don't believe this? There's nothing wrong in this. The coconut is green. You see, like that. But you notice the mind is very tricky. It might just give you a very direct seeming phenomenal report, but very quickly you'll find that it makes a judgment which involves a me. And the limited sense of me quickly is quick to catch on. So whether some thoughts seem empty of this, selling the story of the me, very quickly you see that this one, it comes to the sales pitch very quickly. The salesman called the mind will come very quickly. It might bait you with some harmless sounding concepts. And very quickly it gets the limited idea of me. What? The sage is saying, knowing self, mind empty and at peace. So we are not even talking about mind empty, as Bhagavan would say, mano nasha. See? Come to the mind which is empty of all thoughts. We're not even setting that target because I notice that the mind here continues to have thoughts, and minds of most of the sages I've been with, all of the sages, masters I've been with, continue to have thoughts. So I was never with Bhagavan, so I can't say about that. See, I've never been in this physical way with Ashtavakra, so I don't know about that. But I can tell you that from this experience, mind empty only means that mind is not resisted. Mind is allowed to come and go. So is it possible that there is a level of enlightenment which is still not here or something like that? Completely. I cannot say, is it? Because somebody like Bhagavan has said about Manu Nasha. So I'm nobody to deny that. But at least what I can share with you from my living truth is that the mind is not empty. Thoughts still come and go, but they are just allowed to let go 99 point something percent of the time. And even when something gets attention, mostly it is laughed at. As I expect complete integrity or as complete as possible integrity from my Sangha, also I feel it is my duty to share with integrity. So I can only share from what is the living experience here, which is to come to the recognition of the truth. And in seeing the recognition of the truth, come to the realization that the mind is not meaningful as far as the truth of what I am is concerned. Therefore, the belief in this mind becomes more and more difficult. So, the recognition aids in allowing this mind to just come and go, and allowing the mind to just come and go provides more space for this inner intuitive recognition. Knowing self, mind empty and at peace, the sage lives happily, seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating. There is no attachment or non attachment for one in whom the ocean of the world has dried up. We've discussed this many times. His look is vacant, senses still, his actions have no purpose. Now, vacant usually has a negative connotation in the English language. Oh, he had very vacant eyes. See, it is not like that. When we look at the photo of Bhagwan, when we look at Guruji's photo, we know that there are not there is no conditioning mixed into the looking. But we don't usually use the word vacant. We use that it is empty of conditioning. Like Guruji sometimes asks, who is looking from behind those eyes? Not there's a real entity who's looking from behind those eyes, but is it mixed up with our what's in it for me idea? So empty of this condition. His eyes are very open. I would call them open rather than vacant. There is no attachment or non-attachment. For one whom the ocean of the world has dried up. His look is vacant, senses still, actions have no purpose. This also we understand, isn't it? It's not that I'm doing it because I want this, because I want my life to go this way. You're noticing that actions are continuing, but they're not driven by that kind of personal I goal, personal I ambition, and yet actions continue to happen. the sage, is neither asleep nor awake. He neither closes nor opens his eyes. Thus, for the liberated soul, everywhere there is only this. For the sage, he knows that for reality, there is no difference between sleep state, dreamless sleep state, and waking state. He is beyond these states. He is, in the sense, he is pointing you also to that you are beyond these states. That is the important thing. So you don't have to worry so much about the sage's state, only as a pointer to make this recognition for yourself. So these are all clues for us. They are not just in praise of the sage, which is beautiful in that way, but these are all clues for us. Find that which is beyond the state of waking and sleep. What witnesses waking and sleep? You do, the self does. And it is beyond these states. He neither closes nor opens his eyes. He is not the doer of any of these actions. He just sees that all of this is happening in the phenomenal play of consciousness. Thus, for the liberated soul, everywhere there is only this. There's only this. There's only the self. All ornaments are made up only of gold. All appearances are just appearances within consciousness, made up of the light of consciousness projected on the screen of consciousness. The liberated soul abides in self alone and is pure of heart. He lives always and everywhere, free of desire. Abides in self alone means doesn't give value to the pretense of separation. It is not like an effortful trying to abide. This is a source of a lot of confusion for many of us, isn't it? Because many of the great sages have said, abide only as the self. But you are the self. If you can only be the self, how to abide? We had a full satsang transcript on this, if I'm not mistaken. If you can only be the self, then what is the instruction? Abide in the self. It only means don't pick up the pretense of the non-self. Don't pick up the pretense of your individuality. That's the only play of abiding. It is not even this idea that my attention should only be at home, not arise, not bring any phenomenal content. When consciousness is done with play of phenomenal content, it itself dissolves and goes into sleep. You see? So it is not that form of aversion to phenomenal perception. We have sleep for that. In sleep, there is no a thing outside of the self. When the self is done playing with the apparent appearance of the phenomenal world, then we'll be done with it. It won't even appear. The job of attention seems to bring this phenomenal creation to life. So attention can also go. We don't have to force our attention in that way. In the moment of self-recognition, when the master asks you a question or points you in a direction, automatically attention knows how to follow that. We don't have to force our attention even in inquiry. The questions will do that job for us. No forcing or trying to stay or not trying to leave. None of that. That is not allowing. Allowing means allow everything to function. Often I have spoken about attention in this way, that it is like the dog on the leash. Where will it go? It has nowhere. Sometimes I call attention like this arm. It's always attached here to the shoulder. Whatever content it might be bringing from outside, you have to be concerned, where is this arm going? It might leave me one day. You see? We don't. Because it is just reporting back to the self. This, it cannot leave. It cannot leave you. So you don't have to try and control your attention in that way. Unless you learn some meditation practice or yogic practice which you find is very helpful or peaceful or brings some sense of quietude, there's no need to force your attention in any way. This would be a definition that I would agree with more, where Vidya said, Father, I assume that Manonasa meant simply the loss of personal identity. Is this correct? Well, I don't know what it means literally. Uh, the I would agree if it was like this. I would agree with this more. But from sometimes when I've seen the translations, I've seen the reports of Manonasa, I've understood from the literal meaning that it literally implies that all thoughts stop. And I don't want to leave any of you with the idea that there is a condition here that all thoughts have stopped. They might have reduced in frequency, they might not have the magnetic quality that they used to, and mostly they are allowed to come and go. But it would not be true here from the experience of this play that all thoughts have stopped. And then said, yours too, I'm not sure about what, yours too, Father. Father said, Father, your pointings of staying open reveals the priceless gem of self, always effortlessly abiding as itself. Staying open. This is effortless abiding. And it says, eyes, I see. Thank you. The liberated soul abides in self alone and is pure of heart. He lives always and everywhere, free of desire. Pure of heart here just means the phenomenal byproducts of this discovery. And the usual phenomenal byproducts, what it means pure heart, the true heart with the capital H is always pure. So we don't have to worry about purifying that. Here, what would be implied is that they're empty of resentment, empty of grievances, empty of guilt, remorse, all of these ideas. You see? What are these? These are like some emotions mixed with concepts. If you look at guilt, what is it? Is it a pure thought? No. It is an emotion also. But is it a pure emotion? No. It is also mixed with the thought, I should not have done this. What is pride? Is it a pure thought? No. Is it a pure emotion? No. It is a mixture, a soup of emotions and thoughts, the play of these two, which the mind has made into a pattern and it feels like, yes, so good that I did that. There's some feeling of something, some even joy could be there. But it mixes that with some idea. This was so good. I did such a good job today. Or some feeling of some frustration or some regret. Not even regret, some natural frustration type feeling could be coming mixed with, I should not have done that. That was, and that becomes guilt. So you look at all of these grievances, regret, remorse, pride, guilt, all of this. So as you become empty of all of this, because the basis for all of this is the idea of an individual me, then that can be the pure heart. Chances are you often distinguish between thought and thinking. Exactly. The appearance of the thought in the way we use the term thinking is not thinking. It is the appearance, attention, and belief which make it thinking. Because what is the product of attention? What is the product of thought mixed with attention and belief? Equals identity. So when Guruji says don't identify, this is what it means. Seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, taking, speaking, walking, maybe talking, speaking, maybe taking. Seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, taking, speaking, walking. The great soul exerts neither effort nor non-effort. He is truly free. Neither effort nor non-effort. Very important. So this is what exactly what I was saying earlier. If you're moving from making effort to try and be effortless, see, then that is also another position. Even openness, I found. Many times I say just remain open, and many times we can hear that. Somebody in Satsang the other day, I don't remember who it was, had a beautiful report that I'm staying open, but I'm worried that something might go wrong. You see, I'm staying open. So even that open can become a position. It is not like that I am now doing the open thing. You see, uh, it is just the dropping of all positions, the dropping of open and non-open is openness. The dropping of effort and non-effort is true effortlessness. And the mind can get frustrated with these instructions. Like, just tell me what to do. But even that telling you what to do would be to get you to take a position. So I can tell you is just become innocent like a child or something like that. But even that can become a position. So it has to be just allowed to hit home. These words, don't try to manipulate them into fitting some framework that you have of your spirituality. They have enough power to hit home on their own. In fact, you're trying to manage them can seem to cause confusion about them. The frustration can be what? You're not leaving me with a coherent spiritual framework. Yes. Guilty as charged without any feeling of guilt. I'm not leaving you with a coherent spiritual framework because my job is to kick that away, to demolish that. There are enough coherent spiritual frameworks everywhere. Have they led to your freedom, your coming to the end of suffering? And then the beauty of this is when you're empty of any mental spiritual frameworks, you will, you will discover the beauty of this and it will seem completely coherent. Things like now you no longer make effort or non-effort. There is nothing illogical in that for me now. So it is not that you will not discover the beautiful synchronicity in a way, the beautiful symphonic nature of these pointings. So even the words of satsang, which might seem initially confusing to the mind, then you will start to appreciate from your truer place and see the symphony, which might have very different notes, but you will see that they have a particular purpose at that point of time. The liberated soul does not blame or praise, give or take, rejoice or become angry. He is everywhere unattached and free. So the liberated soul does not blame or praise, give or take, rejoice or become angry. So he's not attached to any of these. He sees the play of the outward functioning doing all of this and he remains unattached. So you say the rejoicing can happen, but the idea that I am the rejoicer is not there. The anger can come, but the resenter is not there. The great soul remains poised and undisturbed, whether in the presence of a passionate woman or observing the approach of his death. He is truly free. The great soul remains poised and undisturbed, whether in the presence of a passionate woman or observing the approach of his death. Everything in the world is treated with a simple equanimity, a simple seeing with empty of feverishness, empty of this, what's in it for me, or observing the approach of his death. We'll see how that one goes, I'm not sure. We'll see. He is truly free. The sage sees no difference between happiness and misery, man and woman, adversity and success. Everything is seen to be the same. And this is important again, because this can again lead to some confusion. When he says the sage sees no difference between happiness and misery, man and woman, adversity and success, everything is seen to be the same. Okay? So some have had this idea that if I'm able to still see a difference, does that mean that I'm still coming from my ego? Okay? Now you have to look at this closely. It is not that the sage cannot distinguish between red and blue. You see? It is not that the sage becomes colorblind. Red is still red, blue is still blue. What Ashtavakra is saying here is that whether it is red or blue, there is no concern about that. It's a subtle point and it might seem trivial, but it's very important. When we see our lives, you will see that we get caught up in a lot of guilty ideas. If you see someone shouting at you and you're able to see that this one is coming from an angry place, you're able to see this. If you see someone who, in their words, is smelling of the pure fragrance of being, that is tasted differently. And if you see someone where the words are just dipped, every word seems to be dipped in egoic belief, that is tasted differently. But because the tastes are different, the sage is not saying, this should not be. I don't want this experience, I want only that experience. So, in that way, it does not make a difference. Many, especially those in relationships, have come to me with this question. And they've said, Father, I still find my partner and I see that he's being so egoistic. Does that mean that I'm being egoistic? And I say, well, that depends. If you're just spotting that he's being egoistic or she's being egoistic, you see, and that is not met with a resistance, if the freedom is there, yes, the world is allowed to be as they are. But if we say, oh, why my partner has to be so egoistic? I wish it was not like this. Then what is that? This me is again what? The ego. So the spotting of an appearance which seems to be coming from the place of individuality is not the trouble. It is what we believe about ourselves as a result of that. Because the world will play in all its flavors anyway. So you will be able to spot the difference in colors, the entire spectrum. In the same way, you will be able to spot the difference in all the various expressions. But you will not make a judgment about it. You will not make a conclusion about anyone based on that appearance in the moment. In this way, you remain open while continuing to perceive all the flavors of the phenomenal world. A sage perceives this very well. That is why he is able to come to a resonance with what is being shared and give an answer based on that. Everything is seen to be the same does not imply that everything becomes now one color. It does not become a single colored world or something like that. Everything seen to be the same. Everything is seen as consciousness itself, and there is acceptance for all the flavors of consciousness. It brings me to a slight digression, which I feel also is a little bit important here, since this came up about uh, relationships. One simple thing to see is that if there's a sense that I want freedom, then are we able to also give that freedom? Many times, many beings have come to the idea that they have found their freedom, and yet when we see their expression, outward expression in life, it can seem like that they're not giving the freedom to anything in the world. Is it? Like, man, Sangha should be like this. You must only do that. You must only have this. You can only do that. So this sense of control, see, it's a subtle point. We want freedom, and we say, please, the world, including my partner, should let me be exactly as I am. Is it? But in that, are we letting our partner be exactly how he or she is? Are we giving the freedom to the ones around us to also be deluded for as long as they like? Sometimes we're forcing our idea of freedom upon them, isn't it? Is it? It's a very subtle topic. So when somebody comes to me for advice and say, Father, this one, my family, my brother, my husband, my wife, they are suffering so much. Can I speak to them about this? Can I share something here? And my advice usually is that if there is a urge in your heart and it's coming from the true place and not coming from any sort of specialness, then knock gently. Knock gently. If the door opens and there is an invitation for you to share, then make these pristine sharings available to them. Is it? Why am I saying all this? There was a point here. Before I met Guruji, there was a time here, and many of you who've been with me for long have heard this story. But many new ones are there in Satsang today, so I want to share this. There was a time where I was the worst representation of the Advaita spiritual ego. Yeah? So then what would happen is that I would be at work, Garima would be at work, she would come back home, she would come back home and then she would say, I had such a terrible day today, this happened, this one's like this. And I would say, but who are you? And she, poor thing, would say, but I'm just sharing my day with you and I'm trying to uh, relate and have this conversation. And this is what relationships do, isn't it? Share their ups and downs in life. And every time I talk to you, you only say, who are you? Or even better, how do you know this is not a dream? So all this has happened here, where very natural day-to-day conversations have been taken by the spiritual ego and then represented in that way. So then I learned. Then actually, this was who did I meet? Yes, actually, I then met Ramesh one day. Next time I went to Mumbai, maybe something was bothering me then. So I said, I understand and resonate so much with this non-doership thing that you talk about. You see, about how there is no individual doer. But how do I explain all this to my wife? So he said to me, let her come to you. And those words stuck. And somehow when those words stuck, then I realized what was happening here was trying to convey that, I'm at a different level now. Maybe some good intention also was there. I won't say it was that bad. But, but a lot of it was about this Advaita specialness. See, I have discovered the truth like this. Come, I'll help you also see what is this petty stuff that you are bothered about. This kind of specialness. Yeah. So the freedom, both these things. When someone asks or invites us in, even then be gentle. Try to meet them where they are. Don't try to push your perspective. Because remember that all that we share here also is just pointers. Okay? It's just pointers. And the same set of pointers does not apply to everyone. If it would apply to everyone, then we would have tens of thousands of people here. It is for those who have a specific set of conditioning, a certain set of pointers applies. Another with another set of conditioning, a different set of pointers will apply. So there is no need to pick up any arrogance about this being the best path or the only true path or something like that. Especially in our relationships, we don't need to thrust this down anyone's throat. You allow them to come to you. And if you truly feel there is intent in your heart to share this, what is the right way? The right way is to knock gently and wait for the door to open. Don't try to tear the door down and give it to them straight and explain to them. Don't too quick to don't jump into becoming the next Maharaj or Papaji or something like that. I'm going to sort them out. Even with these great sages, they only shared with those who came to them. Maharaj, for most of Mumbai, was a BD seller. Whoever knew him, for most of his street, was a BD seller. So I'm sure that when people came to him and said, "Give me that packet of cigarettes or BDs," he did not say, "Who wants to smoke?" He probably said, "Which brand do you want?" There's a deeper message in this, which is that as we are claiming this freedom for ourselves, we must also give it to the world. Let the world be as it is, including the actions that happen from here. Don't pick up guilt or pride about them. Now, this sort of acceptance does not mean that you become a sheep. You force yourself to come to this position of acceptance. That is also a position. Empty of positions, you will watch that the functioning of this body-mind will continue in its natural way. So like the sage said, seeing, talking, hearing, everything will happen. Why did I go there? I'm not sure anymore. In the specs, really being like a grown-up baby today. In the sage, there is neither violence nor mercy, arrogance nor humility, anxiety nor wonder. His worldly life is exhausted. He has transcended his role as a person. The last line is important there. So whatever is personal, I give you some ideas. Guilt, pride, grievances, remorse, regret, all of these are dropped away. Arrogance, which is specialness, humility. False humility is as bad as pride. Anxiety. Anxiety means again not the just the fluttering, but also the resistance to it, to say that this should not happen. Oh, I'm so scared. Mixing up ideas with the appearance of sensations. The liberated one neither avoids experience nor craves it. He does The liberated one neither avoids experience nor craves it. He enjoys what comes and what does not. Neither avoidance nor coveting. The sage is not conflicted by states of stillness and thought. This is very good. His mind is empty. His home is the absolute. So now this paragraph conforms very well with the definition that Vidya shared earlier. He said, even if stillness is there or thoughts are there, his mind is empty. So then it must conform to what we are saying, that it is empty of belief, empty of identification. Because he's saying that even if thoughts are there, your mind can be empty. The sage is not conflicted by states of stillness and thought. His mind is empty. His home is the absolute. So whether the state is that of Turiya, where you just feel that there's a sliver of existence that is here, but there is no world, there is no body, there is no breath, there is no movement of any sort, and yet it is not sleep. Or whether you're experiencing sleep, or whether you're experiencing a dream, or whether you're experiencing this waking state, you know that the self remains unconcerned, untouched by any of these four aspects of experiencing. In fact, it is these four aspects which are contained within you. You are the substratum for all of this. You are not contained in one of this. His home is the absolute. So absolute itself means not affected by states. The relative can have states. The coming and going can have states. The absolute does not have states. Though he may perform actions, the man of knowledge does not act. Very good. We've explained this earlier many times. Though he may perform actions means the functioning, the natural functioning of the body mind continues. The man of knowledge does not act. He knows his true place is beyond this doing and non-doing. Desire is extinguished, free of thoughts of I and mine or me and mine. Desire is extinguished, free of thoughts of I and mine. He knows with absolute certainty that nothing exists. Desire is extinguished, free of thoughts of I and mine. And this duality itself stops playing. See that there are two ways to really look at this. One is that nothing in reality exists. So we can go back to our definition of reality. Real is that which does not come and go. You see? But another a bit of wordplay with this is it is nothing that exists. It is the self which is now claiming its existent nature, its dynamic manifestation. You see? So nothing exists can actually mean either. The sage is free. His empty mind no longer projects delusion, dreaming, dullness. This state is indescribable. You see, you start to notice some of these things. Don't make any of them any benchmark, but you start to notice. And you already will see that a few years ago, or maybe before you started coming to Satsang, notice how many times you would say to yourself, I'm bored. At this lethargic boredom. Now, after coming to Satsang, you'll find that it's a lot lesser. See, because you're so content just being with yourself. If you're happy to be with yourself, you can never be bored. So don't make that a benchmark. I'm never bored. Sometimes some boredom can come, some need for entertainment can come. So all of that. What I'm saying, you notice that truly you find that if you're left alone, no trouble. If you're surrounded by people, no trouble. Why? Because we have recognized that there's a great beauty in your existence, and all things emerge from there. So you're never separated from your source. So all these then feelings of delusion, dreaming, dullness, You will not find yourself so daydreamy as often as you used to be. Because the present, even the content of the present experience seems so vibrant. This state is indescribable. The sage is free, his empty mind no longer projects delusion, dreaming dullness. This state is indescribable. So let's not try to describe it too much more. So that was chapter 17. Anil says, Father, I would leave this burden of benchmarking at your feet, as I feel that mind is trying to grasp it. Yes, we'll read transcripts later. Now, this trouble with this checker guy or this benchmarking, you see, even if I say don't benchmark, we'll say, okay, I've dropped 50% of my benchmark. So it makes a benchmark even of that. We cannot, we really cannot do this. You see. We cannot do this. Do this. Somewhere, something just hits home and it flowers in the play of consciousness, playing as the deluded one and coming to this place of freedom. When I sat at the feet of my father, I didn't do anything. I didn't not even not do anything. There was a stopping of doing and not doing. Did I do that? No, I didn't. Did I not do that? No, I didn't. So just if it feels like we have a job to do or there's something I can do, as much innocence as possible, allow these words to percolate your being. Your being itself is sharing them. And these words will guide your attention to wherever it has to go. It will guide your inner insight to wherever they have to go, because these are the words of your own intuitive presence. You don't have to work at it in that way. That's why I said also in the book that it is consciousness speaking with consciousness. No personal intervention is needed. Because to the person, everything becomes something to attain, something to get to. Even if I say, get rid of the checker guy, don't buy the story of the checker guy. You start to check, have I got rid of the checker guy? That is the checker guy. We don't need to meet at that level. Something is already moving here. In your heart, you know this. The words of satsang, the presence of satsang, all the play of the sangha, all of this is pointing you to that which is your unchanging reality. The mind that only understands phenomenal quantities, and that too a very few of those, cannot be the guide on this journey. And if you choose two partners, choose the guru and you choose the mind, you yourself will find it very uncomfortable. You'll find it a struggle, the spiritual journey. I take some examples sometimes. It's like trying to sit on two chairs at the same time, or try to ride two horses at the same time. Go with that voice which reminds you of your true, unchanging nature. Let go of the hand of the one that is only reminding you of your limitation, which is just the mind. It is telling you that you are a spiritual seeker. It is telling you that you are a good or bad person. Both cannot be true. There is one voice which is saying that you are the unlimited, unbounded, unborn self, and one voice which is saying that you are just this container of flesh and blood and bones. If you listen to both these voices at the same time, it's going to be a struggle. So, Ashtavakra in his second or third verse said, shun the senses like poisonous snake or something like that. I would say, just shun your next thought in that way. You don't have to even be so strong. Just you just laugh at it and say, "No, I just don't buy what you're selling." Ride one horse. It's more comfortable that way. So the horse of the mind now, in its most dominant aspect as a spiritual seeker, being this checker guy, gives you ideas about how far you've come in your spiritual progress. None of that is needed. You don't need that report card. I am telling you that you are free. You don't need this report card anymore. All of you still enjoying the Ashtavakra? Still enjoying it? That's good because uh, the next chapter that we start is 100 verses. Chapter 18. Tomorrow we start chapter 18. I don't feel we'll finish it tomorrow unless we've actually done most of it before, which I'm sure we've done everything before. But unless there is just things which are now starting to seem repetitive or don't need further repetition or exploration, then we might go really quickly. I've not read it, I've I just saw that it's 100 verses, so I've not read it. So we'll see what emerges once we start. Not true, Father. The first Ashtavakra Gita series, we only finished through chapter 13. Yes, yes, that's good. Yeah, I'm seeing that. I'm also seeing that. All is new territory. No, I meant repetitive in the sense of what is already covered so much in the first 17 chapters. If it is too repetitive that way, then we might not take too much time over these verses. But so far, I've been finding it so beautiful that I don't feel to stop just yet unless all of you tell me that enough. Actually, it only happened the second time, no, the third time now, Ashtavakra, because I got some reports from a few when I was traveling to Sahaja, and this came to me and said that we really found the Ashtavakra so useful. And that sort of uh, showed me something, gave me some guidance on how to continue. Just loving it. Okay. So before we close today again, let's send out a prayer to Amritansh, knowing completely well that Guruji's grace is taking care of him. A very sweet young boy. He met me once he came here. Because Supriya had given him a packet to drink. He had a cardiac arrest. So he must be in surgery. So let's send him all our love and blessings. And our Father's will be done. Thank you all so much for being in Satsang today. Sadhguru Shri Muji Ji ki Jai.
Sadhguru Shri Ananta Ji ki Jai.
Murad says, Father, at a later date, will you do the Avadut and the Ribu also? Yes, the feeling is there to look some more. I have some requests. One daughter sitting right in front of me, she is very insistent we do which one? Mahamudra by Tilopa. It is a beautiful, I read one translation which was very beautiful of that. That is there. We also have another request for 40 verses on reality by Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi. I was also feeling the other day too. Narad Bhakti Sutras, if you wanted to look at. Of course, the Avaduta once very long ago, when I just started sharing satsang maybe, we had a spontaneous session, or I don't know how it happened. And I read from there, and that was also very good. Maybe this can just become the format of satsang. We can have something that we are reading from that resonates with what we are sharing. So Murad said which ones? Avaduta and the Ribu. Ribu, of course, very beautiful. Guru chapter 26 is one of the most beautiful things I've ever read. I have to say that.
You also have a satsang.
I have a satsang on that. That was when I was taking the break, the last satsang, or the second last one. I read from the Gita. So, it says, oh, thank you everyone who's saying thank you so much. Also, Nitya says, Father, go on, when you go on like this, we finish chapter 18 next week. Yes, if you go on like this next week, easily. If you notice, I've been finishing one chapter a day the last few times because now all of you know the essence of what is being spoken. So we're just revisiting and revising in some way, looking again and again. But you know the direction now, basically. Sadhguru Shri Muji Ji ki Jai. And I know we've not had the Ram chanting together for a long time, but maybe tomorrow or the day after.